For the second day in a row, the Hindenburg report on Adani Group of Companies rocked both houses of parliament. 16 opposition parties demanding a discussion on the issue of investment by LIC, public sector banks and financial institutions in companies losing market value. Government says that the exposure of SBI and LIC is tiny, and the RBI adds that the banking sector remains resilient.
आप राष्ट्रपति अभिभाषण पर चर्चा करो, बजट पर चर्चा करो, महत्वपूर्ण विषयों पर चर्चा करो। मैं सदन में आपको पर्याप्त समय, पर्याप्त अवसर दूंगा। आप जिन विषयों पर चर्चा करना चाहते हैं, उनका नोटिस दें। नारेबाजी करना सदन की मर्यादा के अनुकूल नहीं है।
I have given my ruling, and no further discussion on that can take place. This is, one second. This is the practice since long. This is also codified in the rules and go to May's parliamentary practice or call on sector. If there has been a ruling of the chair, parliamentary democracy survives on the strength of the chair.
The opposition, all the opposition parties unitedly want a discussion on this extremely important issue, in as much as it affects the ordinary citizens of this country. And they believe that this is a matter of sufficient importance that the government should permit it. Now, as you know, the government is resisting. They don't want these issues to be discussed. They didn't want China to be discussed in the last session. They don't want unemployment and price rise to be discussed. Any issue that the government thinks will embarrass them, they don't want to discuss it.
Let's now take you through some of the main points. The RBI says that the banking sector is resilient and stable. The RBI is reassuring investors amidst the situation at the current moment. Meanwhile, the centre has reassured investors amidst the bank exposure concerns as well. LIC, SBI and Bank of Baroda have clarified on the exposure to Adani Group as well. Let me go across now to Priyanshi, who will break this down for us further. Priyanshi, take us through the details.
Well, Maha, there were lots of developments in this entire controversy today. Let's take you through all of them one by one. Number one, the RBI has said that the banking sector is resilient and stable amid concerns over the exposure of banks to the Adani Group stocks, given that the stocks have been tanking ever since the Hindenburg research report came out. Now, RBI has said that reports expressed concern over banks' exposure to a conglomerate, and it has released its first official statement on the bank's exposure. RBI says that the capital adequacy, asset quality and liquidity of banks is currently healthy, and that banks are compliant while the Reserve Bank of India is monitoring their stability. And in fact, that seems to be the centre's stand at large too. The Finance Minister and the Finance Secretary have reassured investors. There were concerns over investors' money parked in banks, considering that they have investments in falling Adani stocks. These public sector banks have investments in falling Adani stocks, so that's why there were concerns about investors' money. But the Finance Secretary clarified LIC's and SBI's exposure to the stocks. Listen in to what he said.
SBI and LIC's exposure to any given company is far below the level where it should be a concern to any investor in any of these, in the banks or in the insurance policies. It is tiny. The fate of any one company will not affect any of these institutions significantly. And therefore, there is absolutely no cause for concern for either depositors or policy holders or investors in any of the nationalized banks or insurance companies.
Now let's look at what their exposure really is. LIC has said that its exposure to Adani Group is 0.975% of their total assets under management. SBI, on the other side, said that loans to Adani Group account for 0.8 to 0.9% of their total loan book. Bank of Baroda has said that their exposure is 25% of the permitted limit. SBI chairman says that there's no cause of concern as of yet. Listen in to what he said.
We have lent to Adani for projects which are in fact having tangible assets and which are having adequate cash generation, and they have been in a position to meet their obligations. And as far as the quantum is concerned, that is actually just about 0.8, 0.9% of our total loan book. So from that point of view, we don't envisage any kind of a challenge in terms of their ability to service the loan obligations which they have taken. So, and also we have not extended any loan against shares, etc. There is no such portfolio which we have. So the impact of the stock market prices of the stocks will not really impact any of the margin calls, etc., and any of the loans which they have raised from us. But any special engagement we have not yet started.
Meanwhile, the Adani Group dollar bonds rallied today. According to Bloomberg, financial services companies such as Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan say that Adani bonds can offer value due to a strength of certain assets. And not just them. Several credit agencies too today commented on Adani Group's credit profiles. US-based Fitch Ratings said that there's no immediate impact on rated Adani entities' credit profiles currently. Profiles that essentially reflect the loan repayment capabilities of a firm. Fitch Ratings said that they expect no material changes to the cash flow that they forecast earlier. Moody's, on the other hand, the investor service said that they are assessing the financial flexibility of Adani firms and that adverse developments recently can reduce the group's ability to raise capital further. Though Moody's adds that the group's ratings are underpinned by strong cash flows and market position. Now, these comments led to some recovery for Adani stocks, but though the markets gained over 1.4%, Adani stocks continued their slide. Sensex gained 909 points and ended at 60,842, while Nifty gained 243 points and ended at 17,854. Adani Port share recovered and gained 5.6%, but 6 Adani stocks tanked. Adani Total Gas, Power, Wilmar, Transmission and Green Energy in fact hit lower circuit. Overall, the Adani Group has in fact lost $100 billion, which is half of their market valuation ever since the Hindenburg report came out on January 24th, which alleged stock manipulation.
Many thanks, Priyanshi. Let's now move on. In fact, just 2 days after the budget, Finance Secretary speaks with my colleague Sanket Upadhyay, and specifically on the issue of political freebies, this is what he had to say.
The word revdi is not in the lexicon of the finance ministry. It's a colloquial term.
Yeah.
But basically, we would look at schemes, or I think we ought to look at schemes in terms of there are merit goods that a society ought to provide for everybody. I would look at education and primary health as things which government ought to provide, and providing them I would not categorize as populist, or to use the Hindi word revdi, which I learnt after it was, I've only learnt in the last 6 months.
It's a delicious sweet from Lucknow.
I didn't know that till it was, till it came into the finance dictionary. So, yes, so I think there are merit goods, primary education, primary health. These are ones which are not revdis by any stretch of imagination. Similarly, basic nutrition for children. This is something a society needs to provide to everybody. But going beyond that, there are things which are actually private goods that people should choose and buy with their own money. When you start providing them from public funds, you are actually, there's nothing wrong in it inherently perhaps, but what it does is it takes funds away from greater priority uses, which would produce better effects in the economy.
Let's turn our attention now to some other important stories that we're tracking. Rahul Gandhi has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the safety of Kashmiri Pandits in the valley. He has questioned why they are being forced to work in Kashmir despite the threats to their safety and well-being. Rahul Gandhi has flagged the killings of Kashmiri Pandits in targeted attacks in the valley as well. Let me now go across to my colleague Arvind, who has more on this. Arvind, this I understand is after Rahul Gandhi's last leg of the Bharat Jodo Yatra, which just ended, where he had met with the community, is it?
Yeah, Maha, after the culmination of Bharat Jodo Yatra, today Rahul Gandhi, who is the Lok Sabha MP of Congress Party, who is also the former President of Congress, has written to Prime Minister flagging the issue of security for the Kashmiri Pandits in this particular matter, wherein he had said that without adequate security, the government servants, the Kashmiri Pandits government servants are being forced to work in the valley, and that's why he is saying that that's actually cruel. That's why he has sought for the intervention of the Prime Minister, saying that this is cruel without an adequate security measure that's put in place, without all those arrangements being taken care of, without that the Kashmiri Pandits are being forced to work in valley, and that's where their security is at risk, and that's why he has sought for the intervention of the Prime Minister. He has also said that during his meeting with some of the Kashmiri Pandits delegation during his Bharat Jodo Yatra, he was told by some of the members there that the LG used a derogatory term for the Kashmiri Pandits, and that's why he has said that this is again very much insensitive with the plight of Kashmiri Pandits who are putting their lives at risk, still staying in the valley. But despite despite that, there are no security arrangement that has been put in place by the administration. And he also brought to the notice of the Prime Minister that the alleged derogatory term used by the LG in this case, and he has said that the government should rise to the occasion. They should instill confidence on Kashmiri Pandits without taking all these measures, without ensuring all these measures. It's cruel to force Kashmiri Pandits to work in the valley.
Arvind, many thanks for getting us all those details. Let's move on now. Chennai-based Global Pharma Healthcare has suspended the production of a line of eye drops, artificial tears, from the US market after the country's health protection agency said that they could be contaminated with a drug-resistant bacteria that have been linked to reports of permanent vision loss and one death from a bloodstream infection as well. The US Center for Disease Control and Prevention is now testing the unopened bottles of this particular eye drop. Sam Daniel reports.
Chennai-based Global Pharma, which made eye drops that allegedly killed one person in the US, has now recalled the product Care Artificial Tears. The recall came after an investigation by US drug regulator FDA found one person died of bloodstream infection and over 50 were adversely affected, including permanent loss of vision due to possible contamination. The FDA has said it's restricting import of products made by the Chennai company. In a statement, Global Pharma said it was recalling its product.
This particular drug is not available in India. The particular case where the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, the bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, which caused all the infections, it is very serious concern because it is resistant to lot of drug. It is a multi-drug resistant bacteria, and even it can invade intact corneal or conjunctival epithelium.
Global Pharma Healthcare says it's working closely with the FDA in the US, even as investigation is underway to establish if its product had caused adverse events in the US. Just recently, an Indian-made cough syrup came under the scanner after loss of lives in Africa. Certainly, there's a need for urgent intervention by the pharma regulator to avert any dent for brand India as global pharmacy. With Umar Sudir in Hyderabad and Suresh at Tiruporur outside Chennai, Sam Daniel, for NDTV.
Amul has increased the prices of milk by 3 rupees a litre for all markets except Gujarat. This is the 4th increase in milk prices in just a year, a move that directly impacts the common man.
A steep 3 rupees a litre hike in Amul milk prices across India, the 4th in just the last 12 months. Amul, a milk cooperative from Gujarat, is one of India's biggest milk producers, and the hike is likely to be replicated by other companies too. A litre of the premium Amul Gold full cream milk will now cost Rs 66 a litre, up from 63 rupees a litre. A litre of skimmed milk will cost Rs 48 a litre, up from Rs 45 a litre. The opposition attacked the BJP government for the price hike that came less than 48 hours after the Modi government presented what it called a pro-poor budget. At this Lucknow tea stall, people said they were unhappy with the regular price hikes of milk.
इसमें हम लोगों को तो काफी नुकसान हो रहा है, कम से कम 100 रुपए हमारा लॉस जा रहा है।
सरकार को ये ध्यान देना चाहिए कि जब ये हर घर में जाता है और इतनी वॉल्यूम है तो इसका प्राइस जो है वो कंट्रोल्ड होना चाहिए।
अब बताइए ऐसा होगा तो गरीब दूध कहाँ पी पाएगा?
Amul has justified the price hike, saying it is because of the increasing costs of cattle fodder.
Milk is now up by 8 rupees per litre in last 1 year. But apart from milk, prices of vegetable, prices of fruits, petrol, diesel, there is steep hike in their prices as well. They're also up. Though every government says that it is government of common man, but common man is under the burden of price rise. In Noida with Arvind Uttam, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
Now, the Supreme Court has issued a notice to the centre and sought a report within 3 weeks over an appeal against the blocking of the controversial BBC docu-series on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Supreme Court has asked for the original record of the order to take down the documentary from public domain. The court acted on a petition by veteran journalist N. Ram, activist lawyer Prashant Bhushan and Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra, asking that the centre be stopped from censoring the documentary. Now, the government today assured the Supreme Court that the Collegium's recommendations for the appointment of 5 judges will be cleared soon. The Collegium had in December recommended the names of 3 High Court Chief Justices and 2 judges for elevation to the Supreme Court. Once the 5 take oath as judges of the Supreme Court, its working strength will go up to 32. The sanctioned strength of the top court is 34, including the Chief Justice of India. Its present working strength is 27. The court was today hearing a petition regarding the delay in the appointment of judges. The government said that it would soon clear the elevation of 5 judges, which had been recommended by the Collegium. Now, in what seems to be a redux of the Joshimath sinking of soil, now 20 houses and a mosque in Doda, a village in Doda rather in Jammu and Kashmir, has started developing cracks as well, triggering panic among the residents who have been evacuated by the authorities. Nazir Masoodi has more.
First, Joshimath in Uttarakhand. Now a village in Doda district of Jammu and Kashmir, cracking under the weight of rampant construction. 20 houses and a mosque have been damaged in Nai Basti village. And now there is a sense of panic among officials and villagers.
तो डैमेज जो है तब 6 ही स्ट्रक्चर थे. कल के दिन में वो स्ट्रक्चर 10 पहुंच गए और आज 20 के आसपास स्ट्रक्चर पहुंच गए हैं. हाईवे भी रात को बंद था और डीसी साहब ने जो है ड्यूकम साहब की कंसल्टेशन में जियोलॉजिस्ट की टीम भी भेजी थी के मुताबिक ये एरिया सिंक हो रहा है, इसको भी रोका नहीं जा सकता. तो अभी सारा एफर्ट जो है रिलीफ एंड रिहेबिलिटेशन में है. फैमिलीज को जो है सेफर प्लेसेस पे शिफ्ट किया गया है.
Over 50 families have been living in the village for several years. Now those affected are trying to salvage whatever they can and run to safety.
इस वक्त जो ये बिल्कुल परेशान हाल हैं और इस वक्त कोई भी इनको जो है रास्ता नहीं नजर आ रहा है क्योंकि सारा का सारा एरिया जो है सिंक हो गया है और कोई भी मकान अभी बचने के काबिल नहीं रहा है. वहाँ पर कंटिन्यूअस लैंडस्लाइड्स आ रही हैं और सिंकिंग हो रही है.
There are major hydroelectric power projects in Doda in the Chenab Valley region. Huge dams on the river have already flooded villages in the past. And to make matters worse, the environmentally fragile region is prone to frequent tremors. Officials say they have filed a police case against a local contractor for cutting into the side of a mountain to build a road.
We will take all necessary actions to ensure safety of the people. Usme FIR has been lodged and necessary action under law will be taken. The law will take its due course.
It is Joshimath-like problem in Doda district of Jammu and Kashmir. Nai Basti village is sinking and yet 24 families have lost their homes. As the landslides have further weakened the soil, many more people are waiting in uncertainty. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Now, in 2 weeks, Sania Mirza will call time on her legendary tennis career. She finished her slam career with the final at the Australian Open. The tennis superstar has been showered with good wishes for a remarkable career. Here's one of the many wishes she has picked out as her favorite in an exclusive chat with my colleague Rika Roy.
Just wishes and knowing that, you have mattered and you have mattered at some level. I think it's unfair to say this one was my favorite or that one was my favorite, but it is pretty cool to get a wish from Sachin Tendulkar. I'm always a fangirl and always will be, and I think that it's very nice when such a huge champion of our country acknowledges another person who has done something for the country and played a sport. So, but I think like everybody that has wished me, and I'm sure I've not been able to respond to everyone, I was very excited when Kajal messaged me, and because I was watching Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum when she messaged me, and I was like, oh my gosh, she messaged me, it's sweet.
Because of your touring schedule, you've practically been a single mother to Izan. How tough has it been managing as a single parent?
I mean, tough. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's been easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been the biggest blessing in my life to have him, and it's become more and more challenging, obviously, as he's growing older, because he has an opinion, whether he wants to go, he doesn't want to go, he wants his routine at home. But he's such a competitive little boy. I mean, he hates losing. Like, he'll start crying. Like, I have to calm his competitiveness down. I'm like, listen, it's okay to lose, you know. You have to find a balance where you are finding that work-life balance where you're like, okay, where am I? Like, the mother's guilt is real. Which happens all the time. Any mother will tell you, you know, sometimes I have to leave him. I went to Adelaide for 1 week ahead. He came to join me in Melbourne. And every night I'm like, oh my God, like he's not here. Like, you know, I'm not there, and he's going to school, and what am I doing? And that is a mother's guilt, and that's in our nature. So you have to just find that balance, and self-love in those moments is very important, to know that, you know, you should love yourself, you should follow your dreams, mother or not, and it does not make you a bad parent, it doesn't make you a bad mother or a bad daughter or a bad wife to follow your own dreams.